Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Observatory by 25th Century Games.
Observatory is going to be a part of a 2-game Kickstarter by 25th Century Games. Space kind of themed games, observing space themed games. Well, this is Observatory. Now, this is a roll and write game from Chris Williams in which you and the other people you're playing against are going to be rolling dice, using the different things that you get on those dice to be able to plot different stars, trying to replicate a pattern on a card, a constellation pattern, and you'll want to be trying to conserve as much of your space, utilizing all of the different areas on your little player board as efficiently as you can, because space is going to run out really quickly in this game. And you'll want to try to make as many patterns as possible to score the most points in this one. You'll also be unlocking research along the way, so some unlocking abilities depending upon how far down a track you progress. Let's go down to the table. I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Observatory on the board. Let me show you this roll and write game. Now, for components, what you have here for this game, each player is going to have their own paper page board that's going to have a grid of numbers out here that you're going to be drawing your constellations, as well as some tracks that you're going to be progressing across. You will have a pencil for each player. There are going to be lots of cards in the game. You will have round trackers, and these are going to be dependent upon the number of players in the game. You've got as few as one player, and these are double-sided. As you can see, there is the 2-player, 3-player, 4 players going to be on the back of that, and 5 players. And as you can see, the more number of players, the less spots there are on the round tracker, and I'll explain why that is the case here in a minute. I'm going to keep the solo one out for looking at how this plays. And then you also have dice. You're going to have 3 dice of one color and 1 die of a different color. And you will also have a round tracker marker and a first player token. Now, how this game is going to work, there are going to be 2 different types of cards. You're going to have your smaller constellation cards. Oops, I've got some cards mixed in. Let's go ahead and get those set aside. And you are going to have your larger constellation cards, as you can see these ones right here. And obviously the larger ones are going to score you more points, as denoted right here in the top left, than the smaller ones. But the smaller ones are going to be easier to accomplish. And as you can see, these constellations are real constellations, and you can learn about those constellations down here on the bottom of the cards. Now, how this is going to work, there will be a first player, and they will take the token, and they will roll all 4 dice, and you would not be rolling them on the cards, but I'm going to do that because it's going to save some space. Now, I've rolled 2 3s, a 4, and a 6, and what's going to happen is that simultaneously all players are going to use these 3 dice, while the first player will use all 4 dice, because they'll get to use this die as well. So let's talk about these blue dice first. Since all players are going to be using these are going to be very important every time they're rolled. And what you'll be doing with these dice is you'll be choosing 2 of them, any 2, doesn't matter which 2, but you'll be using 2 of them to find a coordinate amongst the grid up here. So in this case, let's say that I choose a 4 and a 3. Well, I could choose that 4 to be this 4 here, or I could choose this 4 here, and then the 3 would obviously have to be the opposite one. But then I would find the cross points. So let's say I pick the 3 and the 4, and those cross points are going to be these 4 right here. And I would just draw a star in the middle of one of those boxes. So let's say I pick this one right here, and my goodness, that is an awful star. But you get the idea. There's my star. Then with the third die that I have not used, which in this case is another 3, I would then fill in one of those numbered boxes down here on one of the research tracks. And let me give you a better, closer look at these research tracks. As you can see, there are going to be different things such as the lens, drive, finder, filter, and funding, and they're each going to have their own special abilities, such as lens allowing me to be able to use any single die as if its value was plus or minus 1. So I can basically change the results of the die. Now, I only get this benefit if I completely fill in the research track. So I got to fill in all of these 5 numbers right here. But if I do any 3 of those numbers, well, then I'm going to get a benefit. I'll either get this benefit or this benefit. I'll explain what these icons mean. But each of these tracks works the same way in that once I fill in 3, I'll be getting one of the 2 benefits that are listed here on the right. But then when I completely fill in the track, I will get the benefit for that specific track. Now, this bottom track is called funding, and it works a little bit differently. I simply get 1 point for every one of these filled in at the end of the game. So that's what the third extra blue die is going to be giving you. Now, this die right here is special. It's only going to be claimed by the first player. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to do another star on that line, anywhere on that line. So in this case, it is a 6, and that means I get to do a star anywhere on the 6 line, which, as you can see, each number has 2 lines. So the 6th line is not just this row right here, but it's also this row. But I could do this column because it's a 6 as well. So I'd be putting a star somewhere in any of these 2 columns. Now, why am I putting stars in where? Well, that's where these cards come in. Now, at the beginning of the game, each player is going to be dealt 3 from the small constellation deck and 3 from the large constellation deck. And of those 6 cards, you will be keeping 4 of them, of your choice. But let's take a look at what a constellation would look like. As you can see, there is the same kind of grid on the card, and you can see where the stars are in that grid, and you will be wanting to replicate that pattern. And once you've done so, you'll reveal it to all the other players. You'll get the number of points on the card at the end of the game, drawing a line on your board right here. So I've already got a star right here. So if I wanted to replicate this pattern, I would need a star, let's say right here, making that be the top star. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll replicate this pattern, and I would need one right there. And I would need one, let's see, right here. And now that I have all 4 stars where they need to be, I would draw my lines to complete the constellation, and voila. I have done that constellation. I've claimed it. And then I would just keep this face down next to my playing area. And then at the end of a turn, there's going to be a small market, as you can see, 2 and 2. And at the end of a turn, I could claim one of the cards that are in the market, or I could draw blindly off the top of the deck. To replenish my hand, you always want to have 4 cards in your hand at the end of a round. Now, coming back to this board right here, I cannot use these stars for any other constellation. Once they're part of a constellation, that's it. They cannot be used again for any other constellations. However, any box that does not have its little dot in the middle taken up, that can be used in the future for another constellation. So this box right here, even though it's got this small line going across it in the corner right here, it did not go through the center dot. So I could still use this box for a future constellation on a future turn, but this one right here I could not because the line did go right through the center, and that means that box is lost to me for the rest of the game. So you want to try to utilize every spot on your board as much as you can, because you will be filling in lots of constellations in your play area, and space is limited, so you do got to keep that in mind. Now, these little things over here on this side, those are going to be dealt with the different research tracks that you can unlock, such as Finder here. It's going to give you the option to place 4 stars anywhere on your board at any point in time, crossing them out as you've placed them once you unlock the Finder one right here. And that's really pretty much what's going to happen on a turn. You would hand the dice to the next player, they would roll, and this would continue, each player taking a turn, getting to roll the dice, and when you roll the dice, you get to claim the orange die, but that's the only person who gets to claim it. And then once everybody has rolled the dice one time, and it gets back to the first player, you're going to advance the round marker to the next spot. Now, obviously, this is the first player one, so the first player is always going to advance it because they're the only player, but if we were looking at this on a 2-player player side. Then once both players have rolled the dice, then you would advance it. And when this marker gets to one of these spots with the red on it, then what's going to happen there is before you take the turn, the first player takes their turn for that round. Each player will either get to place a star anywhere on their constellation board, or they'll get to fill in any one box down on a research track. That's going to be every time on one of these red spaces. Once the marker gets all the way to the end, you'll finish out that last round, and then you'll count up points. You'll get points for things that are on cards. I do want to point out that on some of these cards, there's going to be an A on it, and that is basically a set that you can try to complete. And the more cards with A on them, the more points they're worth. So you want to try to complete a lot of these if you can. Also, I'll point out that some of the cards do have extra bonuses on them when you complete them. So let me cover that real quick, because I did also kind of forget to explain this. This icon is simply to just give you a free star anywhere on the board. As you can see, it's the same icon as what's over there, this one right here that I'm talking about. The one that looks like a little observatory, that's going to let you do a free check on one of the things down here. That's what that icon is. The one that looks like a shooting star, well, that's exactly what it is. It is a star. You're going to be placing a free star somewhere up here. Same icon as that. It's just something that you have to place using that specific number. So the 3 in this case, it's got to go in the 3 row or the 3 column. And that's pretty much the gist. So whoever has the most points at the end of the game is going to be the winner. And that is how you play Observatory. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Observatory from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So, Sam, I want to ask you real quick. We played this one in our bedroom. We didn't play this at a table. We played it on our bed. And the reason I bring that up is because this is a game in which you could play just about anywhere, I feel like, as long as you have something of a flat surface to be able to put those cards out there, and you can roll the dice into the box. But I always feel like that's a great thing about a game whenever we can take it and play it just about anywhere. So wanted to make sure to say that in this video. But what were your thoughts here on Observatory?
Well, typically roll and write games just aren't my cup of tea. I feel like they're just can be complicated with everything that you have to do.
Okay.
But I did feel like this one was very straightforward, and you did have a lot of freedom. I mean, it is roll and write for sure, but you're doing one thing. Yeah. Versus some roll and writes can be a lot more complicated. Yeah, this one definitely has one, maybe 2 layers to it, with the whole, you're either plotting a star or you're unlocking research on the research track. And if you're the person rolling the dice, you're doing both of those things on your turn. But really the idea is to figure out exactly where you should be plotting these stars on your little map area, trying to use as many of the little blocks as you can to be as efficient as you can. What did you think about that idea, and how each row has each column, each row for each number has 2 lines to it. So you can kind of, you get a little bit of wiggle room in that. What did you think about that whole concept of the game? Yeah, I thought that at first I didn't recognize that there was the ability to use 2 lines. Yeah. And I think now after playing it, I know how to be a little bit more conservative with my space. Okay. Versus the first time, you're just not sure what the constellations are going to look like. That, and you don't, I guess, have a great idea as to what kind of score you should probably be trying to achieve. Yeah. And see what's competitive. And obviously that's going to change depending on who you're playing with, but in the way the cards come out. But you definitely, as you play this game, at least for me, you realize, oh man, I can't just be loosey-goosey with where I'm plotting these stars. Like, I've got to, there's a little bit of space left right there. I got to figure out what I can put in that area. You really want to start in the corners and up high or down, like corners and edges. Yeah. And then kind of work your way in a little bit. And don't ever feel like you can't utilize that last little bit of space in between, like in the middle of a constellation, because there's always the possibility that a little tiny constellation pops up. And if you can put that right in the middle of like a bigger constellation, I mean, you're using your space wisely when that happens. And that's a fun little experience that happens with this game. You get the right card at the right time to be able to put it right in the right spot.
And in that sense, it sort of feels like a polyomino game. I don't know. What did you think? Did you get that feel for this one?
No.
That just might have been me. I felt like, because I get that feeling with polyomino games that there's that perfect little spot and I can fit it right in there. That happens with this one sometimes. So the research tracks at the bottom are good, weighty choices and give you that ability to kind of, be a little tense about what you're using your numbers for with this one, because you want to get those things unlocked early on in the game to be able to reap the benefit as much as possible. You don't want to wait too long. And so there's a good little timing element with that I enjoy. So one that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, I think it's a good one it's very simple. It's pretty short. So I think it's a good one to start with non-gamers.
Yeah, 30 to 45 minutes, ages 8 and up. And I think the box is really true to that. So very interesting game here. It is from Chris Williams and 25th Century Games. The game is Observatory and it's running on crowdfunding. So make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video after you watch it. And while you're down there, make sure to leave us some comments.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.